Porsche Exchange, it's all about creating a legendary ownership experience that embodies our guests' lifestyle. Our Porsche service team utilizes cutting-edge technology that delivers a transparent service visit and keeps us in constant contact with our guests. And I can't think of anyone more qualified to work on your Porsche, new or classic, than our Porsche certified technicians. Whether you're a longtime guest or new to our dealership, I welcome you to experience legendary at the Porsche Exchange. If you're a Porsche owner looking for reliable, convenient service without leaving the comfort of your home or office, look no further and take advantage of the Exchange at Home complimentary pickup and drop-off service exclusively at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park.
After 7 events, it comes down to this. A classic of American sports car racing, Sebring will either shake them apart or strengthen their resolve. One thing's for certain, everyone better hold on because it's going to be a bumpy ride as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 10 Club Class live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Michael Johnson. Cameron Abaddon is on social media with Ryan Bauer producing while using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. But before we get to the racing, Series 10 is brought to you by the Porsche Exchange, which has been family owned and operated for over 40 years. Located on the North Shore of Chicago, the Porsche Exchange has grown to be the largest volume Porsche dealer in the entire Midwest. Along the way, they've won the Porsche Premier Dealership Award for many years in a row and has been chosen to be one of the few Porsche exclusive manufacturer dealerships in the entire country. Find out more at 4Porsche.com or follow them on Instagram at Porsche Exchange. Also, Six Sigma Sim Racing is proud to announce the Season 10 Clean Driver Award. One driver in each PCA Sim Racing class will win a Six Sigma Sim Racing $250 merchandise gift certificate. This goes to whoever earns the fewest incident points and license penalty points from their best 6 races this season. For more information, head to sixsigmasimracing.com. Well, as I said, we come here to Sebring, and in the RSR, this should be an absolute hoot, Michael.
Absolutely will be a hoot. I love the RSR. It is my favorite Porsche to drive in the sim. And I include the 919 in that because the car is just so much fun. It's a Swiss Army knife. You can do so much to it, and it just follows your every command, which is really important at a track like this. You've got 17 turns, all with a name. It's one of the few tracks that I know of where I think every corner has a name. Maybe not turn 1 or 2. They're just called turn 1 and 2. But there's so much to do here. You've got everything. You've got like 20 different types of pavement. This is an old airfield that got turned into a racetrack. So you have a corner called Tower because there was a tower there. You've got Bishop, Lamar, the Ullman Strait, Sunset Bend, aptly named because if you've ever been through there at sunset, you know exactly why it's called Sunset Bend. Big Bend, you've got the hairpin, sometimes called the motel or hotel turn because there's a hotel that everybody stays at right there. This is an amazing track. It brings gorgeous racing, and I think tonight we're going to see some of the most amazing racing we've seen in the entirety of Season 10.
Well, speaking of the racing that we're going to see, let's take a look at the championship because, as I said, this is the last chance. Now, Prescott, because of drop weeks, yes, he is within the 385 points that you can see there, but you can't see that his drop points will put him clear of Christopher Cook no matter what he does from here. So, unfortunately, that has been settled. However, Sinclair and Brooks are just close enough that Joe could overtake that third place. He's got to watch out. Kerry could lose it if he has a bad day, so he just needs a solid finish from here. He is still pretty far away. Now, Sigourney and Leung, that's the one to watch out for. 2 points between them before we even get to the drop points. It's going to be extremely tight, and probably whichever finishes ahead, no doubt, between them. And then, of course, it's very few points between Lacroix and Gonzalez for 8th and 9th, but pretty much everybody from 3rd on down should have a chance to try and change their position because they are close enough to try and switch that around. So watch out for that. But right now, before we get to the racing, we do want to remind you that PCA Sim Racing social media offers in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add /PCA Sim Racing. Well, we have qualifying finishing up, and it looks like Prescott does have the provisional pole right now. But Trip Starkey, who sits in 29th, certainly needs to make up some ground for all of his fancy gadgets that he has strewn about the room. Apparently none of them giving him speed at the moment since he's well down the order.
Maybe if he gets on the bicycle and tries to use it goes over the bumps a lot easier on a bicycle. I can tell you from experience, because doing it in a race car, man, you come out of this like 2 inches shorter in a real race car. Fortunately, the sim, it doesn't compress your spine quite the same way.
So last lap for him did not count, unfortunately, and looks like, yes, he should be able to finish hot laps here. So this is his last opportunity. Let's see who's going to be the next one to cross the finish line here and take the checkered flag. Looks like Duncan James, I think, is we're going to follow Terrence Tong in the meantime, who sits in 11th. And this is out of the mall right here, one of the most important corners on the track, which he gets wrong. That's his lap pretty much over.
Yeah, and coming up behind him, that's going to be somebody trying to take advantage of a little bit of that. That's David Glenn taking a little bit of an advantage on that draft that he was getting there. Now he goes into Sunset Bend. You can see where the sun is about to come down. And I love that iRacing has done the extra pavement out here. Finally, you get that little bit of overrun right there. For a while, for years, that was grass in iRacing, even after it was changed. But the recent updates to iRacing, actually the previous update, brought about the extension where it's paved out there. Now we're on with Sigourney, though. Look at Sigourney coming through Gendebien. This is a really tough section. You got to come far over to the left. You can see the black patch where everybody's been driving. You really want to get a little bit more of that inside curving if you can, but nice acceleration right up to the to the limiter, shifting. Hopefully he's not on the pit limiter at this point. At the speed he's going, definitely not. Coming up into Sunset Bend. Little bit of brake, get that nose on around, get back on the throttle, and try to make the mad dash to the start-finish line and get into the pits, if that's what you choose.
Yeah, I guess he didn't like that lap. By the way, Scott Kessel liked his. He jumped up onto the front row on that final lap, so great improvement there for him. Dean Chapman, in the meantime, looks like I think he is already done, so just practicing from here. I think Balistieri might be amongst our last. Yes, Balistieri is the last one coming through right now, and he's slowing down, which means we're done. That is everyone able to put a time in that wanted one, and Robbie Prescott is on top of them on the pole. Scott Kessel will start next to him in second. Kerry Brooks still fighting for that third in the championship. Will start third on the track. Chris Cook will be P4, as Peter Sigourney will be in fifth, and Patrick Adamczyk will start sixth. Then it's Chad Dick in seventh. Klaus Nielsen will start eighth, and Ben Leon in ninth. Brett Holmes rounds out your top 10.
Yeah, glad to see some of those names up there in that top 10. But coming to 11th, we've got Mario Gonzalez, followed alongside Terrence Tong, who we were on board with a minute ago. Lyle Eddy on the next row with Mark Lacombe, Gary Reese, and David Glenn, who we were just on board with. Jerry Mazzariello. I got it right that time, didn't I, Jeremy? So Joe Sinclair, Matthew Yockel, and Brandon Harrison take out your top 20.
And here is the rest of our 38-car field. Very popular class, this one. A lot of drivers showing up. So this is going to be fascinating to watch, no doubt, to see if they can get through these first few corners, which are going to be packed, without having major incidents. And as we mentioned, it's rather late in the day, so sun's going to continue to go down. We don't think it'll actually go below the horizon, but it will get a little darker and probably cool the track down, as it's only 79 Fahrenheit right now. But they line up, and while normally this was supposed to be a standing start because they voted in the RSR, not really, Michael, a car that does standing starts, so they're doing a rolling start.
There is a trick if you know it. And I'll go ahead and release the trick so anybody listening, you know exactly what to do. On the start, so this car has a special mode when you are in the pit lane. And if you have the pit limiter engaged, it will actually give you a really good start. So you pop the pit limiter on, you drop the clutch and you go, but you've got to release that pit limiter quick. The car launches incredibly well. If you don't do the pit limiter trick, well, you're going to be bogging down quite a bit.
Oh, and by the way, another special event is happening right now. The Porsche Parade out in Palm Springs is happening right this second. And in fact, Horace Knight, who is racing tonight here in this league, is racing from there. And both of our admins are doing their adminning jobs from out there in California. So big hello to them, and glad they're able to do what they need to do from remote. But right now, these drivers probably a little bit more concerned about what's happening here on the track, as we're just waiting, I think, on maybe one or two more. I think Joe Sinclair needs to get out there, and that should be it. Then we should get the go-ahead, as long as actually Joe does grid up. I don't see him out, and they do have strict rules about being able to start from pit lane, and he is going to miss it. So looks like the pace car is going to leave without him. We'll see if that was determined to be allowed by the stewards ahead of time, or if he's going to get an extra penalty for doing that. But right now they come up into Sunset Bend with Prescott and Kessel leading the way. Will they get through the bumpy turn one without problem? This league is known for clean racing at the starts of races, but this track is notorious for issues at the start. Green flag is out. Prescott doesn't go very quickly. He might not have the greatest jumps here to try and keep the lead into turn one, because Kessel's on the racing line. He is on the outside, though. He's going to have to dive in quickly as they go three wide, and oh no, they do have a problem. Somebody is sent out into the wall right on the first lap, and I think that was Kerry Brooks, actually.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't know that he realized he was three wide there. A lot of times what happens in iRacing, especially in that first little bit, you don't get notifications of how much or how wide you are. Normally, hey, you're three wide on the outside, you're three wide in the middle, but on that opening lap, right as the green flag drops, you don't always hear it. So that makes it really tough. But here they are coming down towards...
Oh no! Holy cow, what in the world happened there? Scott Kessel got hit by Chad Dick. Kessel was having all sorts of problems getting his wheels going because he was spinning out a lot. Oh, we got more problems. His car's spin coming off of the hairpin as well and into the middle of the track. Drivers are trying to check up to avoid it. This is causing all kinds of issues, but it looks like it's starting to sort itself out, though a few have lost a ton of positions in the process, and they now head into Cunningham Corner, but it looks like Prescott leads, Sigourney's in second, and Cook is in third.
Little crazy. It looked like a multi-class racing there for a little bit. There was such a huge speed differential. Looked like Chad Dick got caught up in that, and then right as he came out of that corner, got caught up again and had to dump off onto the grass. So really tough start for a lot of drivers. We're going to see some really nice opportunities for recovery drives here, I think.
Yeah, Chad's car just suddenly veered off to the left, and I am not totally sure. We've had another incident towards the back of Richard Franco and Ballestieri. It looks like Trey Davis and Klaus Nielsen. Oh my goodness, Kevin Haman, a lot of cars involved in this one. Unfortunately, Volker Krebs as well. But this track already eaten up a lot of cars here. We're only on the first lap. Now this is into the first corner. Remember, Kerry Brooks really needs a decent result to hold on the third in the points. This is not going to help that effort.
Yeah, a lot of cars caught up here as we're taking a look. Oh, another one backwards into the wall. Now, these cars are quite hardy, but it doesn't really work that well when you're going that hard into the wall. This is looks like a replay of the start.
Yeah, this is Mozzariello. Oh,
there you go. Oh,
I didn't even see this one. This was out of turn one.
Yeah, it's tough. It is really tough. The track really narrows down. You've got this huge runway that you're on, and then you turn off onto the taxiway right here, and see how narrow that gets? 3 cars wide on that is almost impossible, especially when you're bouncing around as much as this track makes you bounce around.
watching Horace Knight here. Not sure if he had some sort of issue. So let's see what happens with Kessel. And did Chad Dick maybe lock up the brakes? Or, I mean, that was very strange. Car just juts to the left all of a sudden.
So these cars, I mean, I've raced these cars and iRacing plenty, and I do know that when the tires are cold, so there's a little bit of back and forth door to door. That almost looks like there was an equipment failure. That was a really odd jut to the left, and I think that may have been some kind of weird issue with the feedback and just bounced him across it. There we go, another one. There's Adam Check having a little bit of an issue going door to door. And
that one looked like netcode, though, to me.
Yeah. A lot of interesting stuff happening here. This is incredibly unusual for this particular league. We never see cars going airborne like that. That never happens in this league. Sure, there's contact, there's good racing, there's a little rubbing door to door. You may see a mirror bounce here and there, but you never see stuff like that. And I think it was just the difficulty that is this track, and right there trying to avoid an incident, trying to avoid a car landing on top of him, and ends up having the rear end go around. I am gobsmacked. We never see this kind of racing. This is not indicative of the way these guys race at all.
No, I'm sure there's going to be discussions afterwards and a long debrief with everybody. Now, after all that, I only see what looks like about 7 or 8 drivers that have visited pit lane because they have a spare car, and it looks like many of them have taken that already. Others have elected to try and take some repairs and save that spare car, but we're riding on board with Dirksen now here in 14th. This is a battle for that P13 with David Glenn just in front of him, and they're heading down into Cunningham.
Yeah, and he picked up a position because the car that was in front of Glenn looks like it went off. Was that Mark Lacombe, I think? I think it was Mark Lacombe. And then looking up towards the front, Mario Gonzalez started off, I believe it was P10. He's all the way up to P4 now. So can he hold on to it? Because he's got a little bit of pressure from Ben Lung behind him, wanting to take up that 4th position and work his way up towards the podium. But as we look through the field here, man, this has turned into a couple of different pelotons of really good racing, really tight racing.
So we've got 2 black flags out of all those incidents so far. Kerry Brooks has insult to injury, unfortunately, and been given one. And Scott Kessel has one. Now, looking at the time stamps, I would think that may just be for the turn 1 incident where they went 3 wide, and they're punishing both of those cars. So that's what I can gather. Apologies if I have that wrong, and maybe the admins will correct me on that one, but that's what I'm reading out of that. But for now, it looks like maybe they're giving the blame to 2 separate drivers for 1 incident there, with 3 that were involved, as we're now riding on board with Yokel here. And he is chasing on Mike Matson along with Volker Krebs and Joe Sinclair. This is essentially a train up to 9th, it looks like.
Yeah, and a very good train. This is back to the racing we're used to seeing with these guys. Very nice, very respectful, and waiting for your moment. There's one thing that I teach constantly, which is the 3 Ps, and one of those is patience. I know it sounds weird to be patient as a race car driver, so we see a little bit of a lockup there. So we're on board with Scott Powers. That's going to be Mike Matson, who had a little bit of a lockup. That's going to give an opportunity to Matthew and Scott, because these tires are going to heat up a little bit more than you want them to, especially when you start locking. Now look at that. There was a little bit of an opportunity there for Matthew Yokel to try to make a little bit of nervousness happen, but now he's a little offline, and he's got Scott Bowers attacking him. This could get interesting right here.
Yeah, Bauer with 14 positions gained from the start of this race has been on an absolute tear. And if ever there was a race where you could make up a lot of positions, this is definitely one. Now, interesting to note, just some cleaning up on earlier reports. Kessel's black flag was cleared by the admin, so that may have been an error. Again, we're waiting on information. And now Chad Dick has been given one. Meanwhile, watching Chris Cook here, This is for second place with Peter Sigourney just in front of him by about a quarter of a second.
Yeah, it's getting pretty tight up front here because Sigourney would love to be able to just kind of cruise along, but I think Chris Cook has different ideas. He's a little bit closer than he was last time we took a look in here. Look at how he's closing up under braking and then still holds on. There's a little bit of concertina effect there, but still holds on here as they come off the corner. The gap really is not changing that much. It's under a second. It's about 8/10, and it's sitting right there. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for that third P is to pressure. Put the pressure on. So I think if we watch Chris Cook here in that, is that teal? Would you call that a teal colored car? Yeah, we'll go with
blue
teal.
or something. Yeah,
sure. So in that teal colored car, perfect for Florida, especially when you get down towards the south part in Miami and such. Although this is still the central bit of, I think this is technically still Central Florida here. Although that's typically thought of as Orlando. But anyway, he's really putting the pressure on, doing exactly what he should be doing. We're still early in this race, got a lot of time left. We've got about 51 minutes or so left in the race.
Always talking about the important topics here on Podium between the colors of cars and Central Florida delineations as we come through the infield portion of the track down through Collier and into Tower. You mentioned that corner earlier. Always thought it was one of the trickier ones here, and oh so important as it leads you out into a very long acceleration zone.
Yeah, as you come up here, we see him moving through Bishop. It's essentially a straight. Yes, you are turning the wheel to go through these bits, but it is absolutely mashing the gas the whole way through. Up until here, you want to get a really nice touch of the curve as you go through to the end, and then coming into Le Mans. I'm surprised to see they're not taking more of that inside curbing there, though. If you take that inside curbing, that'll give you, because that inside wheel kind of hooks in there, and that'll give you at least 1.5 to 2 miles per hour of extra oomph to come off that corner.
Oof, look at this battle in front of them, though. My goodness, Yokel here leading the train, and everybody was kind of picking their own lane up through Sunset Bend. They were all spread out. Let's see if they do so here as well. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of different lines out of cars coming through the first corner, but into the braking down at turn 3. They're going to come together, in fact, literally, as David Glenn gets punted. He's able to keep it out of the wall, but that was from Derek Dirksen.
Yeah, fortunately, Derek realized, hey, I kind of messed up there, came on the radio and apologized for it. I'm guessing he's going to end up giving that position back. Speaking of giving positions back, we're hearing Scott Kessel also on the radio. Feels like he did something a little bit off, and he's offering to give a position back to Chip Witt. So great racing, very respectful, just as you always expect from this crew.
Absolutely. And yeah, just a little too deep into that turn. You saw the results there. Klaus Nielsen also just got a black flag for a lap 1 incident. Not sure, there was so much that happened, not sure which it was, as David Glenn is absolutely sending it into Cunningham, but unable to overtake Duncan James quite that time. This group is not too far behind that group we were just watching moments ago. With the high number of cars, in spite of the number of wrecks that we saw at the start, there's still a lot of drivers that are very close together here.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, we've got a couple of different pelotons. Those early incidents really kind of separated a bunch. And I think we would have one giant group if it weren't for this. But fortunately, this has given us great opportunities to have 3, maybe 4 different groups of cars that we can watch and see some of this great racing as David Glenn tries to make it again, getting a good run out of Le Mans, coming down towards Sunset Bend. Looks like he's going to hold onto that inside, but not quite enough. Can they share the corner coming out of it? Getting on the gas. Oh, I think he may actually lose a position there. No! Ooh, that was tight.
Wow.
Jason may have a word or two for that one.
That was Brodigan on the backside of David Glenn, just about giving him a very big exhaust inspection, as Mazzariello is actually going to be able to get by Jason with a smooth move down to the inside. So that nets Mazzariello 21st. Well, and off the course goes Duncan James, so definitely going to lose some positions with that one.
Yeah, it gets tough. Now, the fun part about, well, one of the hundreds of fun parts about this track, the final corner and the first corner. So turn 17 is so named because, well, okay, yeah, it's the 17th one on the course, but there's 17 ways in it, 17 ways out of it, and they're all correct. Turn 1, very similar. You've got probably 4 or 5 different entries and 3 different exits to the corner, and they're all correct. It just depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Do you need to save some tire? Do you need to hold a position and be defensive? Are you trying to attack? What are you doing? There's so many different ways. That's why this track is loved by everybody I know at the pro racing level. We all adore this track because it gives you so many opportunities of choice when you go into these different corners. I think the only one there's not much of a choice would be Tower, because there's only one fast way out of Tower.
Exactly, and Scott Kessel here trying to come back after some problems there at the start. Is back up to 14th. That's Matson just in front of him. And Dirksen, who we saw have his own issue not long ago when he got into the back of a competitor. But they're going to stay far enough apart this time down through Sunset Bend. But who will get the exit onto the main straight? That's the big question as they all track out all the way to the edge up to that wall now that it's paved. And Matson looks like he's got quite the run here on that purple and blue 22.
Yeah, I'm pulling for the purple car. Fans will know why, because, hey, I love purple cars. So pulling for the purple car, but Matson is really closing up on Dirksen there. He was down to about 1/10 of a second, back out to almost 3/10 right now. I think he's got an opportunity, and he's just trying to test the waters, see how close he can get up in there to get in there. But meanwhile, Scott Kessel is up to 13th. So Scott making a great recovery drive here after that opening lap incident.
Yeah, just sliced through on Matson there through 3 and 4. Whoa, very wide there in front of them for the car ahead. But we're checking out Ben Leung in the meantime as the number 290 chases 5th place. Lyle Eddy here up ahead. We got some more penalties being handed down. Sebastiano Ballestieri, the latest to receive a black flag. So the stewards have been very busy, which is understandable after that first lap, having to sort out who is to blame for a number of incidents that sadly cost a lot of drivers what may have been better results today.
Yeah, those opening lap incidents, it's tough, and I do not envy the job of the stewards on this one. There was a lot to look at, and a lot that's, well, maybe it was a racing incident, maybe it was bad behavior. Honestly, I always, with this group especially, I always lean towards racing incident. Very rarely do you see bad behavior, but, it happens. I can say I've done it too, so a little bit wiggly there. That's on board with Brodigan. That looks like Mazzariello there in front of him, who's trying to make up some space on Glenn, and got just a little bit wide, but he's still making a good push for it, although Brodigan looks like he's going to try to make it around the outside, but nope, I think Mazzariello has got a little bit better push off the corner there.
Yeah, looked like he was going to be susceptible for a moment, but now he's on the attack as he chases on Glenn. What happened? The wing.
Oh, look at the wing on his car. That's not the desired setting for that wing. In case anyone was questioning, you do not want the right side of your wing to be in that particular shape.
It looks like it has been that way for a bit here, so not sure when he accrued that, but so yeah, that's not going to help him, unfortunately. David Glenn just in front, hoping that will help him stay away. Meanwhile, coming down into the hairpin, Dirksen in the thick of it, and he's just gotten a black flag, so how hard does he want to fight? How hard do these guys want to fight him? That's Scott Bowers, who's currently behind Scott Kessel in with him, and Mike Matson trying to follow him through after having been recently overtaken by Scott. Remember, he started on the front row, did Kessel, so he should be much higher than this. His speed should elicit that.
Yeah, but the hard part is at many tracks, at most tracks, if you're only a 10th or 2 faster than the car in front of you, getting around them is a monumental task. It's not going to be something easy. And the farther up the field we watch Kessel go, the harder these passes are going to be to make. I think some people will see who it is and they'll go, oh, yeah, I'm not going to give him too much trouble. I'll actually open the door for him here. But most of these folks are going to want to race. They're like, hey, I've got an opportunity to race with one of the fastest guys on the track. I think I'm going to have some fun for a little bit.
Absolutely, and it seems like Bowers is interested in giving him some fun because he's not giving it up easily so far and is actually looking maybe to try and overtake on Dirksen there, which he shouldn't have to wait long for that. Meanwhile, Kessel and Matson went way wide there. Matson especially almost out to the wall on the exit. Big run for Bowers down into turn 1, but breaks a little bit earlier than that 22. Now, again, if he's been paying attention, he should have seen the admin message that that 22 car has a black flag hanging over him, so he shouldn't have to fight.
Yeah, interesting to see the difference in braking performance, or braking technique, I should say, for these drivers. All the cars have the same braking performance. It's how well the driver is using that brake pedal and using downshifting and using how much is he turning the wheel. So everybody has technique that they're trying to apply here, and watching that little group of cars going into these corners, it's interesting to see how they do. Now, is that damage on Chris Cook's car? Do I see damage there?
Well, if it is, it's not slowing him down, because watch this one. We just caught the tail end of it before, and he had a good enough run coming out of the hairpin that down into Cunningham, he said, let's take a bite at this, and he got a big piece. He is now up into P2 with that one.
Yep, Peter Sigourney back into P3. Mario Gonzalez still holding on to P4. I think that's him just in the picture there. So this race is starting to close up just a bit, because Gonzalez is only about half a second off of Sigourney. And Sigourney, just having gotten passes, still about a second and a half up to Chris Cook. So I wonder if Sigourney may be having some issues. But meanwhile, we're going to go take a look back here at Mike Matson again. We are on board with him. He's coming up, trying to make life exciting for Scott Kessel. Scott Kessel, meanwhile, right up on Scott Bowers, trying to get up on the inside. Not quite going to do it. It's a tough spot to pass. Now he's got to use all that track on the exit and hopefully get a little bit of draft. He's going to get some here. Is he going to split these two? He's going to try to go down the middle of them. Nope, all the way over to the inside. Bold move from Kessel. Is he going to be able to hold on? He only gets one car through that, but wow, that was a very brave move from him.
Yep, and that was started by Dirksen just having a very horrible run through the Sunset Bend and open up the door for these two, Bowers and Kessel, by. Now they're going to fight for this 11th spot. Is a great run for Kessel. Gives him the inside. Bowers not going to fight it, and he lets him go.
Yeah, there was a little bit of dancing around in the grass there. I don't think Kessel really wanted to do that. He wanted to take the position, but the dance in the grass part at this track, wow, it gets pretty crazy. That car starts to dance around. You don't know what's going to happen next.
Oof, Walton nearly took out a bunch of cars, and poor Brodigan was the one that got the brunt of it. He had one of those moments you always fear coming into a hairpin, Michael. He got onto the grass and just couldn't stop it. Let's watch it right here.
Yeah, taking a look at him, see how the car is positioned up, comes back over, gets into the brakes, and then a little bit too hard up to the inside. Tries to avoid everything, gets a little love tap on the back end, and who was that?
That was Brodigan.
That was Brodigan. Okay. Yeah, that corner, there are so many incidents there. That is one of the biggest places for failed pass attempts or just a little touch on the grass. I remember one race with IMSA right at the beginning of the COVID pandemic. We were doing our races online. Now, they weren't official or anything, but I had an opportunity to make a pass on Greg LeFou. And I was on the outside. I was certain I was going to make it, and I went a little bit too far out and caught the grass, and then had a very nice discussion with that inside wall.
Must have been a short one, unfortunately. So.
It was very short because I had to reset the car and get back to the pits.
Well, sparkling conversation aside, Trip Starkey here is trying to chase on Dean Chapman as they head down to turn 3. That's Mike Matson just in front of them. We've been seeing a lot of Matson. Seems to be in the thick of the action here today as they exit out of 5 down at a big bend here, and Dean Chapman gets a good enough exit. I don't think Tripp's going to be able to try and fight him here.
Yeah, we were on board with Trip Starkey in the qualifying session, and I think that last time, I love this room. He's got the big, massive, 50-inch screen sitting up there, so all the fans can see what he sees. Because if you notice, he's using VR. I love racing VR. But Starkey trying to keep Mazzariello off of his tail. Mazzariello's really closing this up. Look at how close he is there. He's just, every time they come into a braking zone, getting a little bit closer, right about 3.5 tenths here. I think we're about to see a pass attempt made soon, but he's got a little bit of traffic in front of him that could make that difficult.
Trip up 13. We had slagged off his qualifying somewhat, and he's responded well in the race itself. Meanwhile, just behind them, Mazzariello here is starting to try and see if he can at least get one of those back. We were talking about beautiful cars earlier. I do like the way this green looks on Mazzariello.
Yeah, it's a good looking livery there. I love the time these folks spend on their livery, but let's get talking about a purple livery up front, the 777. That's going to be Mario Gonzalez. Again, started in 10th and is really making a run, so much so that he made the car in front of him disappear. Oh, there we go. It comes back. Mario Gonzalez has really been closing up this gap. He's been down in the past minute or so to about 1/4 of a second. So it's a little bit back and forth. Gonzalez is really pushing up on Sigourney here. I think this is another spot where we may see a nice move. Mario Gonzalez from my region, the Hill Country region, started 11th. I had said 10th. He's actually started 11th, all the way up to 4th now.
Yeah, and you are not kidding. He is all the way there now. Sigourney has him climbing over that rear wing. So can he manage to make it? There's another case of two very different lines coming down into Tower, but both manage it well, and they are even on the way out as they were on the way in, just about at the halfway point. Now, when will we start seeing some actual scheduled pit stops here? Because drivers have been able to pit probably since about 15 minutes into this race. It's just usually we don't expect to see them take scheduled stops until about 30 minutes beyond, and even then, most try to go long here. So the number 2 in the meantime, Chris Cook, there we saw ahead, kind of running on his lonesome, well ahead of this pair that we were watching moments ago. About 3.5 seconds difference between them and Chris Cook. Good run here, though, from Gonzalez on the way in. Can he carry it on the way out? Looks like he does quite well.
Yeah, Gonzalez really taking the measure of the track at that point. He was all the way out to the wall, exactly where he needs to be. And this is where he seems to have the speed. Now, when we get up to turn 3, so this is turn 1, this little kink is turn 2. He's going to put the nose out there, give him a little message saying, hey, I want to get around. But watch this. This is where Sigourney has typically been able to reopen that gap. So right now we're looking at about half a second. It was 1.5, 2 tenths as they were going across start finish. So it gets really, really tight there. Taking a look out the back of the window from Peter Sigourney. Look at him close that up. That is some great driving. Takes the hairpin much better, gets a much better launch. He is closer this time than he has been. We might see a pass going up into Cunningham and Collier.
Absolutely. It looks like he's got a really good run, but he doesn't show his nose. Interesting. He's been close a couple times, just can't seem to make it happen.
Now watch the different line here, though. So we've got what I call the amateur line and the pro line. Mario is making that pro line. This is what we do. The guys who are out there getting paid to do this, we tend to run that wider to the right side, where the DE folks, the people who come out there and run DEs, which they do what their instructor tells them to, and then that's kind of what they continue doing, where they kind of make that hook around to the left side. It's not quite as fast, and it's a lot more scrub on the tires. So I think what we're going to see is Mario having a little bit more tire as we get another 4 or 5 laps into here, and that's going to be a really interesting story to tell at that point.
Didn't get the greatest of runs off of Le Mans that time, so he's a little farther back. But last lap, he was very good here through Sunset Bend. Can he do it again? Yeah, just a lot stronger through there compared to Sigourney. So as they accelerate down the front stretch, He's got another opportunity potentially if he gets another great exit. Last time he looked very, very good down through turn 1. Tucks it in a little bit earlier down to the apex, but it doesn't look like he's got the exit.
Yeah, I think he's playing with him a little bit. See how he's making Sigourney go really, really defensive there. Now, it's working for Sigourney now because Peter has a really good exit out of that turn 3, 4, 5 segment there. He just has the rhythm down, where I don't think Mario Gonzalez quite has the rhythm. Mario's got the better number pretty much everywhere on the track, but that's the only place he's got enough to catch up to him, unless, just like we saw right there, wow, a little bit of a mistake, a little bit of a chink in the armor. Is Gonzalez going to be able to take advantage of that?
Whoa! We got a major wreck over what looks like by the hairpin. That's Terrence Tong going for a tumble, and he's going to try to drive away from it. Not sure who that was with him. Was that Sinclair? No.
I think that was Lung. It was Ben Lung.
Yeah. So how did this happen? That's not really a place that sees accidents quite like that usually. Went a little wide. Does he cut back across? Miscommunication.
There was wheel spin there. The inside car, which was, I believe that was Ben Lung. So here we are on board with Terrence, comes around, and if we can see, if we can maybe get on board from that same one with the other car, I think you're going to see where there is a little bit of wheel spin and probably a correction. Right here, goes in, gets on it. Look right there. There was a little bit out, and now he's coming back across. Yeah, I think he's got wheel spin.
And they came together regardless of the cause, and that sent them both spearing into the Armco with, unfortunately, a lot of damage. Now, like I said, they're in the pit window. They can come in and take that spare car if they need to, but they're going to lose a lot of time in the process. Meanwhile, Trip Starkey, who is up 12 and has done a great job outperforming his qualifying by racing much better, has been done many times over by Duncan James. This is a plus 21 for that number 75 car. He is absolutely just dicing through this field.
Yeah, this is a really good run, and it's a lot of patience that really pays off. This track gets people really on edge, and you've got to let that go. You've got to find, like we were talking before with Sigourney, where he just had that beautiful rhythm as he was going through 3, 4, 5. So watching how people react to how this track just draws you in, suckers you in. We're going to take a look at a replay here. This is going to be Peter Sigourney, who's currently in 5th. How did that happen, you might ask? Well, I'm glad you asked, because here we are with Mario putting a little bit of pressure on him, and he goes a little bit too wide and misses the apex as he goes into tower. That drops him back a couple of positions. Mario did exactly what he had to do. That pressure we were watching finally paid off.
Well, there was a Nintendo Direct today, so maybe he heard the crowd talking about Mario and thought he'd go check out to see if they were calling his name. But looks like, yeah, it looks like he is going to have to take a pit for that pretty soon, I imagine, to repair whatever damage he got from that hit. Robbie Prescott, in the meantime, is this the only guy that's had a calm race this whole time? Because my goodness, it's been all kinds of chaos behind him, and he's just smoothly running up front. It's not a massive gap. It's about 5 seconds right now, but we haven't really talked about him at all.
Well, and I think he's just kind of holding onto position. He was happy to watch in his rear view camera that there was a little bit of a battle going on back there. Meanwhile, Chris Cook, 5 seconds back, it's another 7 to Gonzalez. I think all he's got to do here is just manage that gap. He doesn't have to overdrive. He can choose when he wants to jump into a pass of a back marker. He's got a good position, but meanwhile, Chris Cook, there we go, and then Mario Gonzalez has a back marker in between him and Chris Cook. He may be able to use that back marker to help him catch up, but here we are also with Lyle Eddy trying to close up a little bit of a gap here in a good position. Right behind him is going to be Peter Sigourney trying
That's Eddie trying to pass Chad Dick. That's the lapped car, yeah. So he's Chad's being the buffer right now between Mario and Lyle Eddy here.
Now, I can tell you, Chad Dick's P30 here is not indicative of how Chad drives. I've driven against Chad. I've driven with him side by side on many tracks here in iRacing. Good, fast, consistent driver. So this P30, that's all due to that lap 1 incident and the black flag that he got. But notice, does the right thing, gets out of the way at the right point, doesn't impede. He's helping actually for a little bit there by staying online and being fast. That was actually very helpful to Lyle Eddy being able to hopefully close up the gap on Mario Gonzalez.
Gonzalez and Eddy up 8 and 9 positions respectively themselves. So they've been having a fantastic final race here. And they come down into Sunset Bend. I expect they're probably both going to carry on. And I don't really think we'll see any of these front runners pitting anytime soon. Mid-packers maybe trying to undercut somebody and get into some clear air, but these guys don't seem to be hindered at the moment, so might as well stay out and run it dry.
And I want to show some love to a mover in the mid-pack. Up 24 positions. You did not mishear that. I did not misread that. Duncan James, currently in P12, is up 24 positions. That's some driving right there. Making up 20. I've never made up 24 positions. I've gone from 25th to 5th, but I've never gone 24 positions in half of a race. So that's some fantastic driving right there.
And Joe Sinclair, who's having a few connection issues apparently, is going to try and pass on Matthew Yokel. Looks like he'll be able to make that happen. Now, this could be important stuff here because remember, it's Sinclair versus Brooks. And Brooks is, well, where is Brooks actually? Did we lose him completely? No, he's 29th. So Brooks is going to have an absolute atrocious score as things sit right now, whereas Sinclair's in the top 10. Now, I don't know if this 7th is enough to overtake in the championship, but if he can manage just a couple more, I got a feeling that he could find himself finishing 3rd in the title fight.
And notice the lights are coming on, well, are showing up now. They're always on in the car, but now you're actually starting to see them illuminate the track ahead of these cars. That means the sun's coming down, it's getting dark out on the track, and the track temperature is going to be coming down if it hasn't already. So that means these cars are going to have a little bit more power because the air is cooler, and they're going to have a little bit more grip because the track is cooler, and these tires, this tire model really likes this cooler track. So I think we may see some faster lap times as these guys let these fuel loads get pretty low as they can, and use every bit of grip they have on every lap.
Temperatures I'm seeing on the track surface are the same as what we saw before, 79. So I was curious that they haven't drifted downwards any, but it is 74 air temperature. So yeah, I think it is cooling a little bit as the sun goes down and should be pretty low by the time we actually see that checkered flag. Did see Richard Franco did take what looked like a scheduled stop. There you go. Look at that beautiful sunset that iRacing has put into the sim here. Honestly, one of my favorite features they've done over the course of their history is the passage of time that they've been able to incorporate. And here is how they are spread out on the track. I see a big gap there between the 7 and the 407. That's Prescott and Adamczyk. So that's the leader and one of the back markers. So looks like there is some space if some of the mid-pack drivers want to try and slot into that. Otherwise, look like there's not many big gaps throughout the rest of the lap.
Yeah, meanwhile on board with Mazzariello up here just trying to close down on Ben Lung. Now Ben, we saw in that incident early on, he may be trying to push along with a little bit of damage, just waiting for his best opportunity to pit. Now, if he is going slow enough, it might be a great opportunity for him to jump into the pits because he'll be able to get that fast repair. He'll be able to get his spare car and be able to get back out there on track, back at the pace he was going earlier. His last lap was a 59 flat, his best lap being a 58.3. So I think it might be kind of in that midway point. Do I keep running or do I not?
Oh, Chris Cook has pitted 22 minutes in. This is a bit early, so I don't know if he had any sort of issue or anything. Car looks okay to me, so I think this is just his own call, deciding to pit in this time. Should expect about 14, 15 seconds stationary and then on his way. 16 seconds, a little bit slow. We'll see if that's a problem at some point, as we saw another car pitting in. Didn't quite make out who that was, though.
Yeah, Chris Cook now, as he comes out, slots into P8, which is still really good because nobody in front of him has pitted yet. And if we're looking at a 40 flat seconds in the pit, so cone to cone, that's going to put him about 2 seconds behind Robbie Prescott as it sits right now. So maybe a really smart move. And if he's in a position now where he can put the pedal to the metal, make up a little bit of these gaps, maybe use Dean Chapman in front of him. Granted, it's about 2.5 seconds out there right now, but at the pace he's been driving, he's got opportunity. And if he can start using these other cars on track, I think he can narrow that gap down and pull off a bit of a surprise when Robbie Prescott goes through his pit rotation.
Duncan James now into the top 10. Now he's going to have to hand some of those back. Sigourney, Yokel, and it looks like Trip Starkey have all pitted this lap, so that promoted him a few. Even still, this is a really phenomenal day. I'll need to double check and see what the best finish is for Duncan James, because again, he's up 27 spots right now. This has been unbelievable, the way he's been just keeping it clean while everybody else around him falters. Now we've got Robbie Prescott. There it is. That's our leader. So maybe the pit window not quite as wide as I anticipated. Usually I thought they could make it about 15 minutes or 15 to go to be able to pit stop. But 40 minutes seems to be the max length that they have, because most drivers are pitting this lap. And Chris Cook is coming through Sunset Bend right now. Prescott's just taking off, so I don't think we're going to see a change for the lead.
It could be tight because he's got the run as he's just past start finish. There we go. That's going to be our leader, Robbie Prescott. He's got enough space there, so it wasn't quite the surprise I thought. Still about 6 seconds. So Prescott from cone to cone was 39 seconds and about half a second faster on his pit stop, his stationary in the pit box time. So Prescott was able to do a full second faster cone to cone, so it worked out a whole lot better for him.
Yeah, so that did not bring them together like we may have hoped, but Prescott is certainly glad about that, because he is even more clear with 20 minutes left. Pit stop done. All he has to do is remain clean from this stage on. Last couple cars are pitting, and that will be it. Everybody will have taken their stops, and we'll get a clearer picture of where everybody sits, including Mazzariello, who looks like he is going to cycle through in 12th. That's if he doesn't pass Dean Chapman here, who is the car directly ahead right there.
Yeah, it's getting interesting. He's getting really close up there. This is getting pretty tight. So Chapman wanting to okay. Yeah, all right. I thought there was a little more there than there was. I thought we might have had a little bit of bump on that curbing that was going to throw him just a little off balance, but it looks like he's actually able to hold on to it.
We hadn't mentioned it, but Terrence Tong also had a black flag from his contact with Ben some laps ago. So, and Duncan James, well, he's still in 13th. That's not that many lost. So he's still 23 up, and he's actually the ones right behind Mazzariello and Chapman here. Depending on how this, depending on how this squabble goes, he could definitely have these two.
I think there's a really good opportunity here for him, because if, as you were saying, Mazzariello and Chapman are having a bit of a squabble. They are racing hard. I don't think they notice that Duncan James is closing up this gap. In this conversation of this observation here, he's already closed up over half a second to him, and he's got a little bit of a draft available to him as they work down the Ullman Straight going towards Sunset Bend.
Ooh, Brandon Harrison just pitted. Now, is this a black flag? No, I'm not seeing one next to him. Did I just miss him having not pitted? Because I thought I saw everybody having taken their stops. So this is going to be more for these three. And now Duncan James is 12th, actually. A top 10 is definitely feasible as Mozzarella is going to dive it down into the first turn. Chapman's going to give him space. They're both going to be slow off the corner. Duncan James approaching. And unfortunately, he's not going to be able to make it. But now he is on the rear bumper. Look to the inside, or maybe a defense here from Jeremy.
That looked like an attack defense hybrid, because I think Mozzarella wants to get past Chapman, but he's got to watch out for James. He's finally noticing Duncan James right up behind him as Duncan James looks like he's going to get up the inside. Mozzarella, reacting to the action in front of him, has to take evasive action, and that allows Duncan James to get around him. Duncan James up into 11th position, 25 positions up from where he started.
This is just incredible stuff here out of that 75 car as they head through Collier now. Let's see if he can also catch Dean Chapman now that he's kind of gotten clear air. He's no longer got the threat behind him like he had from Mozzarella a bit ago. Maybe that'll help him pick up the pace. We'll keep an eye on it. There's still 15 minutes left, so we've still got a quarter of this race to go.
Yeah, still a quarter of the race. There's a lot of time for action to be had here, as we just saw, where Duncan was able to get past Jeremy. But Jeremy, I don't think is going to take that line down. I think he wants to get that position back. He liked putting the pressure on Dean Chapman there for a while, but I think Duncan James might have something to say about that. Duncan comes off that corner a little bit better, working up into Sunset Bend. Who's going to be the master of Sunset Bend here? Because I think this, for these cars right here, for this little pack we're seeing, is going to be the defining corner, that coming out of Sunset Bend and up into turn one. That's where it looks like Duncan was able to make up the most last time, but a lot of that was the battle that was going on between Mozzarella and Chapman.
By the way, it was able to pick up James's best finish, 23rd. So this is going to be a massive improvement for him. He is...
what do we call that? Punching above your weight or something like that?
Yeah.
I think he's found himself into the heavyweight championship now.
Yeah, this is him stumbling into this a bit. I mean, he has had all the wrecks, but man, we've been watching him make passes. I think this is pretty legit, honestly. He's let's see, he's about 46 seconds behind the leader. So yeah, he's not quite at pace with Robbie Prescott, but even still, he's doing a phenomenal job. And this has been just something to really commend. Maybe, and I like this suggestion from our producer behind the scenes. Ryan says maybe he's a Sebring aficionado.
That's got to be the case. And who knows? He is from the Suncoast, Florida region. So I imagine he probably spends a lot of time at this track in real life. So, of course, they're going to do stuff at places like Homestead and Daytona. But this is one of the more popular tracks for drivers all over the country, not just in the Suncoast region. So he may have a little bit of home field advantage here.
All right, coming down the backstretch, he was a little under threat there, but we're stepping away from that battle to take a look at Robbie Prescott. Still at about 7 seconds ahead of Chris Cook. He's been kind of inching away from that bright blue car. Back to this fight, and Mozzarella wants that position back. He's not too pleased that he lost that one.
Yeah, he showed his nose going up into Sunset Bend. He's fighting to get this back, but right here, this is where it looks like he kind of falters off a little bit. He tries to take this first part of the corner too tight and then loses it on the little short straightaway-ish down to turn 3 that they're going into right now. The turn 2 is that little bend in the middle of this. Now, is it going to be a story, again, like we were watching earlier, who has the rhythm of going through 3, 4, 5? It looks like that time it fell towards Duncan James. Duncan was able to hold on to his position and actually close up just a tiny bit on Dean Chapman.
Took a little bit of a poke there, did Jeremy, but I don't think that was a serious look, just trying to distract his rival. And especially with the lighting conditions we're getting to, that might be a little bit more effective. I always thought it was a lot harder to gauge how close somebody was when it gets to be nighttime and all you can see are those headlights.
Yeah, I usually just punt them, so I'm just kidding. I don't punt anybody, but it is harder when you start getting that lower light level. Your eyes have to adjust, and you kind of have to recalibrate the way you're going to take a corner, the way you're going to break into a corner, and how close you're going to get to that car, how close you believe you are to that car in front of you, because it just feels a little different. You have a different amount of light coming in, and it's kind of less information for your brain to work with.
So you're saying it hits different?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Meanwhile, we got a battle now between Ben Leon and Trip Starkey. Ben, after he had that massive accident, is back in it, not letting it slow him down. Probably took his spare car, and Starkey's not going to fight him for it. Trip probably pleased with his 13 plus, even with that position that he lost, that he has gained in the race itself as they cross the line once again. Yeah, that may have been the right call, because already it looks like Ben is kind of running away.
Oh, looked like Mazzariello was able to get around. We just missed that. Watching another really interesting race. Looks like Mazzariello was able to get around. We're going to take a look at the replay here. Here they are coming out of Sunset Bend. Mazzariello gets a beautiful run. Duncan James didn't quite get the best launch out of that corner. Now watch this. They are so close. He's able to get down inside and underneath. So that was the thing before. He wasn't able to get completely to the inside before. So that time he was able to do it. But, you know, Duncan James, he's still up 24 positions. That's nothing to sneeze at. I still think he's my driver of the day.
Speaking of nothing to sneeze at, I do want to commend all the drivers out here, because in spite of all the incidents on the opening lap, we have only lost 2 cars, maybe 3. Nielsen and Balassieri official DNFs. Lacombe has been taking repairs for quite some time, so he might be the latest if he can't get back out in the next 10 minutes. Otherwise, there's 33 out of 36 starters that are still out there.
This track is known for attrition. It beats up cars, it beats up drivers, even in the sim, because this is such a bumpy track. And if you have it set up on your steering wheel where you get a lot of force feedback, it can really exhaust you. Now, it's a great type of exhaustion to have. It's a lot of fun, but I mean, it's a beating that you take. So the cars bounce around a lot. It runs up your arms into your shoulders. I've done sim races here. I've done endurance sim races here where my arms and shoulders were sore. Now, it's not like the real races or the real life races where your entire body, there's not enough Tylenol in the world to cover all of that.
Exactly. A big look down to the inside. Mazzariello, now that he's gotten past Duncan James, has set his sights on Dean Chapman, but doesn't have the best run there through turn 1. He's got to watch out. As much as I'm sure he wants that P10, if he makes a mistake, we already know that James is willing to try and pounce.
Yeah, he's been showing quite a lot of ability in that. He's able to read those situations incredibly well. Now we're seeing a little bit of flashing lights. I usually use flashing lights to tell somebody that, hey, I'm about to do something, like especially if you're coming up on back markers. It's not typically done in anger. I have other ways to indicate that. I have other ways to indicate that. Usually you can't see them in the sim.
I was going to say, I know plenty of people who use those headlights in anger, but that's...
Yeah, sure. I think some people do, but it's also a good tactic to kind of draw away the attention of the car in front of you. So, as they are getting tight there. Look at how close this is getting. Got backed up just a little bit. This is going to give James an opportunity. Again, James trying to use that flashing light to kind of take Mazzariello off of his game. Mazzariello actually misses a little bit there. He goes wide. He goes wide.
I was going to say, the speed he entered, I didn't think he was going to make that in a million years. So
not in this car. It is a very capable car, but no, he would need to be in a prototype to go that speed.
So James gets the spot right back once again, and Chapman stays in that 10th position. Man, nerves of steel in that 610 car, because he's had both of them on his heels here in the second half of the race. Whoa, as Mazzariello is struggling with the tires now. So not only has he been off track once, but looks like maybe picked up a little bit of gunk.
Yeah, a little bit of a drift show there. Now, the track temperature is only down 1 degree Fahrenheit. It's down to 78 with the air temperature down to 74. So that's going to be tire wear. That's trying to get that position back. That looks like it could be tire wear. It could just be he got on the throttle a little bit too soon. Meanwhile, we're on board with another hill country region, David Glenn. He is closing up here. He is in P18 right now. That's going to be Chip Witt in front of him. This is a really good battle. Only about 3 to 4 tenths between these two. These guys are really starting to go at it hammer and tongs. I think this is another one we're going to have to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. So Chip in 17th, Dave Glenn in 18th. By the way, the name Chip Witt, it feels like it belongs in 70s NASCAR. I just love that name. But the Redwood region driver is trying to not only actually keep Glenn back, but he's got Trip Starkey in front of him. Trip's been kind of bleeding positions. He's lost another one to Mike Matson since we last looked. Oh, and almost made contact as Trip may be either short on fuel or is he dealing with damage, because that was very slow through there.
Yeah, I think that was just a little bit of maybe a brain fart a little bit. Hard to say. There was a little communication back and forth between the drivers. Looked like there was an apology offered and then an all goods given back. So, yeah, looks like Chip Witt was having a comment of finding his backside attractive tonight. That's why he went back to where he was.
So back onto the Ullman Straight here once again. I'm gonna hop on board here with Trip and listen to hear if he's going to just lift and coast or something. Easy pass there down the inside. Didn't sound like lift and coast. I wonder if he's just struggling in straight line speed. For some reason, Trip Starkey cannot run pace with those around him, and now David Glenn is already looking like he's going to overtake.
Yeah, as they go past the start-finish line, looks like Glenn is just going to be able to slide by him. Getting up here into turn one, Glenn taking that inside line, able to put the hammer down and try to close up onto Chip Witt. So Glenn looking for a little more battle with Chip Witt. Trip Starkey unfortunately falling back, but still up 10 positions on the night.
Indeed. Now, we are getting close to the end here. 4 minutes left to go. I'm keeping an eye on our leader as we watch this battle to see where he comes across the line, because it's going to be tight on if we are 2 or 3 laps left here. There he is right now on your screen, coming down into Sunset Bend. It looks like it should be 3 laps to go. Yeah, he's going to be able to get to the timing line in time, but it'll be just about 10 seconds left.
And that's one thing I've done at this track in this car. Because of the way the lap times fall, your best laps are going to be just under 2 minutes. And if you've got a race to time, well, it's really easy to figure out what 2 minutes is. But how much time did you spend in the pit? And when you come around, can you time your crossing of start-finish to shorten the race by a single lap? Or does it work to your advantage because you put enough fuel in the car to go that extra lap? Do you want to go ahead and cross that line and get that extra lap in there? I have done that because I knew the guy behind me short fueled and was able to close up some time on the pit stop, and I made the plan to time it crossing that start finish line, so we got the extra lap in there.
Ooh, that was very close to the outside wall for Duncan. Here comes Mazzariello. He's going to look for it and then decides against it. Now it's James' time to poke his nose. Also decides not to try and make the pass. They stay in order. Chapman 10th, James 11th, Mazzariello in 12th. But 3 laps left for them now. It's running out. If someone wants to take a position, they got to do something soon.
James is placing that car beautifully. Duncan James, the local driver here, he had a beautiful placement of the car going through 3, 4, 5. Now he's in a good position, goes a little bit defensive though, has to, and then comes back over to the racing line. Still perfectly legal move, no problem there. Gets a beautiful exit though wow, he has got a great exit coming out of the hotel turn. He has a chance to put a little bit of pressure onto Dean Chapman as they work their way up towards the Collier-Cunningham complex.
Yeah, and Chapman's going to defend. He saw that one coming. Just dissuades him. Big wheel spin there for Duncan, though, coming off the turn. And 2 to go, signal being given to Robbie Prescott as he just crossed the line now. Meanwhile, these 3 out of the tower corner into Bishop. Chapman pulling away just a hair, not enough that he could really stay safe from here, but at least out of range from a surprise attack. Duncan James, though, as much as he wants this spot, Jeremy Mazzarello is still sitting back there in 12th, ready to pick up the pieces.
Now notice as they went through that corner, Duncan James really attacked that inside curb. He's the only driver I've seen tonight who's really gone in there and made the most of that inside curving going through there, and it got him a little bit more of a gap. It gave him a little bit of a cushion that he needed because Mazzariello had closed up through Chen de Bien, and now as they come out of Sunset Bend, once again, it looks like all 3 of these cars are just making a great race. They were on board with Mazzariello. Mazzariello takes a look down the inside, not close enough this time. That move we saw before, but he's got a good run. Is he going to get up to the inside? He's got overlap as they head down into turn 3. He's got the position back. He has taken the position away from Duncan James.
Textbook move down into turn 3 there. Had the speed, outbraked him, made the apex, and off he went. Now, can he finally do something on Chapman in these last 2 laps that he has available? He's been trying for it so many times. He's given his spot away more times than he's taken the spot away from Chapman. So what has he learned from those times before? What can he do differently?
Yeah, meanwhile, we don't need to go to it, but Peter Sigourney is looking to take a position back. This is a much closer race that we're watching here, but Sigourney is closing up. Now that's Mazzariello. Look at how close Mazzariello is able to get into here. Mazzariello has a better time on the middle part of the track when he's coming up onto Dean Chapman. Duncan James has been having these beautiful opportunities to make these passes because of the mistakes of the other drivers, because he's putting on the pressure in the right location. But this is going to be a crazy finish with this little trio.
White flag is out. Prescott's on his final tour. These 3 going to get that pretty soon as well. There is your number 7 car, who has already claimed the championship and is just about to put a feather in his cap on this one as he's coming out in dominant fashion. Chris Cook looking like he's probably going to follow him home as he is also by his lonesome, and credit to Mario Gonzalez up 8, who looks like he might have a podium here. Oh, something's happened to Chapman. He's lost both positions. Mazzariello's through and James is through.
Yeah, Mazzariello got through as they went out of Le Mans, but then looks like, oh, we got another opportunity for him to try to get a position back, and oh, he's going to have to check up going into turn 2, into the braking zone for turn 3. This is going to be quite the battle for the finish. It's going to be tough. Sorry, Robbie. We'd love to be able to cover most of your final lap where you're putting that feather in your cap. But this race right here has got legs.
Very much so. And James probably frustrated that he had it so briefly and now it's fallen away from him yet again. Can he get back up there and try to fight for it? Brett Holmes also with a nice fight with Sigourney. You were mentioning this one earlier. Not sure how long we're going to be able to watch it, though, because Prescott is just getting ready to head into Sunset Bend. After already taking the crown, he is going to humiliate the rest of the field on this one. Going to take a spectacular win coming from the pole, avoiding all the mistakes that the others have had. And Robbie Prescott weaves in celebration for victory here at Sebring.
And meanwhile, looking back in the field, Peter Sigourney has gotten around Brett Holmes. Scott Kessel is right up on him too. Brett Holmes gets back around, looks like, as they're working their way up towards Sunset Bend. This is going to be another one of these great finishes. Scott Kessel, beautiful recovery drives, ultimately only down 5 positions. He was way back there. But now what's going to happen is they make the dash towards the finish line. It's anybody's game. Wow, that was a tight finish there. I couldn't quite tell who got it.
Wow, Kessel was a 1/10 of a second away of another position and just shy of 2/10 away from 2 positions at the very end. Meanwhile, Duncan James, yes, he didn't get that 11th spot, but this 12th place is a gain of 24. I think he should be very proud of himself on that one, as Brodigan follows him home in 13th. Looks like Leon recovered to a 14th. Remember, he had a massive accident, so that's impressive. And Madsen also up 10 to P15 there, but I don't think we have any battles left from here to the end.
Yeah, the only battle really right now is going to be the hill country drivers. I am also in hill country, and we've got quite the thunderstorm rolling through. So being able to maintain power, electricity, and your internet connection through all this, I think that was half the battle for anybody in hill country region right now.
Including Gonzalez, who finished 3rd. So he's probably thanking his lucky stars. That held out. We have held out throughout the race, but we're going to take a short break. Don't worry, we're not done yet. If you stick around, we're going to come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Break a little earlier if that's going to be the case. He's actually got a nose ahead as they come down into the braking zone. He's going to do it the hard way.
If you're a Porsche owner looking for reliable, convenient service without leaving the comfort of your home or office, look no further and take advantage of the Exchange at Home complimentary pickup and drop-off service exclusively at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. At the Porsche Exchange, it's all about creating a legendary ownership experience that embodies our guests' lifestyle. Our Porsche service team utilizes cutting-edge technology that delivers a transparent service visit and keeps us in constant contact with our guests. And I can't think of anyone more qualified to work on your Porsche, new or classic, than our Porsche certified technicians. Whether you're a longtime guest or new to our dealership, I welcome you to experience legendary at the Porsche Exchange.
Welcome back to Sebring. What a great final race here for the club class as Robbie Prescott took the win. It started a little rough, admittedly, but it certainly came into its own. Chris Cook managed 2nd place, and Mario Gonzalez an excellent 3rd there, up 8 positions. While Eddie was up 9, but he was 1 shy of the podium. It's even still 4th place, very well earned. Peter Sigourney was 5th, exactly where he started, interestingly. Brett Holmes was 6th. Scott Kessel, who had a great qualifying, was unfortunately not able to really capitalize on that. Had a bad start off the line and then got caught up in a wreck on lap 1. He still recovered to 7th. Joe Sinclair was 8th, Matthew Yokel 9th, and Mazzariello finished 10th.
And part of that battle with Mazzariello, the next 2 drivers, Dean Chapman and Duncan James, that was quite the show with those 3. Jason Brodigan having a good time of his own in 13th, Ben Lung in 14th. Mike Madsen, we saw a lot from him in the first half of the race. Chip Witt also, David Glenn. Robert Cottle, Trip Starkey doing quite well, fighting much higher than I think he's used to. And then in P20, Scott Bowers.
And then here is the rest of your field. Last one on the lead lap was Walton in 26, but I do believe we had 33 finishers here tonight or thereabouts. In the meantime, I believe we've caught up with our winner and unofficial champion, Robbie Prescott. Robbie, congratulations. We were musing as we watched the race whether or not you were aware of all that had been happening behind you. Did you know anything of the chaos that unfolded?
I knew a little bit of it. Obviously, with the first lap, I saw my biggest concerns were obviously me, Chris, and Kerry. We're all top 3 in the championship. Anything can happen in the last race. So I was ready to battle those guys. And turn 1, I just see Kerry go sliding in the wall. So I feel really bad for him. And then I kind of saw a little carnage behind me, but I don't really like knowing about that on the first couple laps. I just want to keep my head down and focus on what's in front of me and just try to run away from the people behind me. And then once I kind of settled into a good pace and kind of calmed down a bit, Jesse was my spotter. Jesse was kind of telling me how much carnage was going on, and we were having a good talk about it. But for the most part, I was just focused on clicking laps.
And once you finished your pit stop, you were probably about 6 seconds ahead of Chris Cook there. Did it kind of feel like home free once you saw that?
Yeah, I think so. Once Chris got caught up behind Peter a little bit and I was extending the gap, I knew that if I could just finish the race, I had it unlocked. I don't want to sound kind of too out there like that, but I knew that in order to catch me, I had to run like low 57s or 56s. So I knew if I could just keep it in the 57s, I'd be fine. So I just tried to match those guys' laps behind me. If Chris ever ran a faster lap than me, then I tried to get back that missing time on the last lap or the next lap, and just kind of manage that gap the whole way. But once I heard like 10 minutes to go and then 5 minutes to go, racing, anything can happen. During those last couple bits, some of the lap traffic spun in front of me. So my goal was just to wait until I got down that home stretch and saw Barney waving that checkered flag to really, really be sure and confident of the win.
Yeah, it ain't over till it's over. But with you hailing from the Chicago region, you going to go see some NASCAR this weekend?
I am actually going to be out of town this weekend, so I cannot. Yeah, I race tonight. And I leave for out of town tomorrow. So unfortunately, I'm going to miss it. But I'm hoping to catch the IMSA race at Road America in August. Me and some of the buddies from PCA, I think we're going to go out and check it out. So that's going to be a fun time.
Absolutely. I can attest. I've been there a few times, and Road America is beautiful. Well, congratulations, Robbie, and hopefully we'll get to see more of you next series.
Thank you. I mean, I'm going to assume they're putting me in the pro class now. So I had my fun, had my time winning club. That was great. But now it's just time to enjoy the racing with all the fast people. And I got to give a big shout out to Jesse Lyon, my spotter, the whole Phoenix crew. It's been a pretty emotional time in my family this past couple weeks with a bunch of stuff happening, and it kind of hits you hard when stuff like that. So just to be able to wasn't in the best of mental states, but thanks to Jesse, I was able to come back. And then Leaf and Chris Paez, they talked to me last night, and I was able to get back on track and get ready for the race tonight. So thank you to all those people. Shout out to my friends, family, and anybody else who made this season possible, because it's been awesome. And I think they're streaming this at the Porsche Parade, right? So I got to shout out to all those people watching, and Chicago region, best region.
There we go. Robbie Prescott taking a win, and maybe a promotion after this. Behind him was Chris Cook, who was second in the points, and obviously we'll consolidate that. I believe Michael's caught up with him.
Indeed, I have. So, Chris, lap 1, turn 1, it was a Chris Cook sandwich with some interesting bread. 3 wide, you were in the middle. Did you feel like your race was over at that point?
I did. When we collided, I thought, oh no, this is it. Game over. Get my fast repair. This isn't going to be good. But hey, it worked out.
So by the end, from being that close and that tight at lap 1, turn 1, to having 5 seconds in front of you and almost 6 seconds behind you to Mario Gomez at the end of the race, it must have felt like you were suddenly just kind of cruising home.
Yeah, and thank you for that, too, because I didn't put in a lot of practice. I wasn't the most confident coming into this, so it's nice to have a clear breathing room, settle in, and just kind of relax.
So now the most important question of the night, I think, we were discussing it a little in the booth as we were watching part of the race where you were kind of having a little back and forth with someone. What do you call the color of your car?
It's fuchsia, right?
Okay, we'll go with that. We were like robin's egg blue or maybe Peru. We weren't quite sure, so I figured we would try to clarify that a little bit. So with a P2 here, that's a pretty good, pretty good finish. So I think you've probably got some plans coming forward for the next season.
I do have some plans coming pro. It's going to be pro class, and I'm pretty much certain it's going to be pro class. So I'm a little nervous, a little intimidated. Those are some fast guys in that class, and so I don't expect much, but to learn more and get a little bit faster. And yeah, fuchsia's a pink color, by the way. It's teal. Teal's the blue color.
Teal or turquoise or something along that. We weren't quite sure, but I was going to let you go with fuchsia. That's okay. If you see that as fuchsia, more power to you.
I'm colorblind.
So enjoying with the pro class next season. I think you're going to have a good time. And of course, you've got some people to thank for your journey through this class to get you into the pro class next season. So who do you have to thank?
Oh, I got to thank you guys, Podium. A big part of this and the fun of this experience is the live stream and the commentary. So we do appreciate that. And got to thank the Porsche Exchange and the PCA for putting this on and helping us out. My competitors, Robbie and Kerry, those guys, they put me under so much pressure and stress this season. I've never worked so hard at anything in my entire life. And then my spotter, Ryan, who kept me sane through all these events. And then my wife, who puts up with me spending all these hours down in the basement every night.
Well, seems to have paid off. Beautiful race, beautiful finish. Looking forward to seeing you next season. That was Chris Cook, our P2 finisher. And I think Joe Peak, meanwhile, has caught up with Mario Gonzalez, my fellow Hill Country region.
Indeed. Mario, are you talking to us from your bomb shelter right now? Because we've seen some of the weather screenshots, and it does not look friendly.
That was one of my biggest concerns. As a matter of fact, a lot of lightning, and for a few minutes there, I was thinking maybe I should pull out because I didn't want to accidentally disconnect and take another driver or a couple of drivers out, because of my disconnect, So, but no, hey, my first podium ever, and I the electricity hung in there. Finished P3. I'm ecstatic. My arms are mush. I'm ecstatic to finish the season off this way. It's awesome.
Understandable. It's quite a climb to get 8 places there and wind up on the podium. And you had a front row seat to a couple of those first incidents. What was it like from your perspective seeing that unfold? Well,
it was very well. Obviously, it's you're freak out, but then all of a sudden you don't have time for that. You just got to get through it, and then it's behind you. I was fortunate, and I'm sure y'all participate in sim racing, so sometimes you get lucky and it goes your way, and sometimes it doesn't. And everything fell into place for me. I was fortunate. Yeah.
Well, that is Series 10 done, and we'll head off to the next one some months down the road. What would you love to see in the next series here in PCA?
I'm pretty much a jack of all drivers. So if using the word of jack of all trades, it doesn't really matter to me what car or what track. I'll take it as it comes, and it's good that we have an every 2-week race, so I get to practice for a good solid week, and so yeah, it doesn't really matter to me. I'm up for anything.
Well. Glad to hear that, because honestly, I love drivers that are versatile. Congratulations. Anybody you want to thank before we let you go, though?
Yes. My first podium ever. I'd like to thank you guys, Podium Esports, for broadcasting this. You guys have done an awesome job. PCA Sim Racing, of course, Porsche Exchange. Also like to thank Leif Peterson and Chris Pais. Last night we had a practice race, and they stayed after and gave us some little more advice on some of the things that we were doing wrong, and it really benefited me, and I pulled off a P3. So yeah, thanks to you all.
Mario Gonzalez, the 777 car, coming home third here tonight at Sebring for the last race of the club class. Looks like that's going to wrap us up. So once again, make sure and join us tomorrow night, because Thursday, June 22nd at 9:25 p.m. Eastern, we'll be back for the Pro Class's final race of Series 10. We'd like to thank our sponsors for Series 10 as well, the Porsche Exchange and Six Sigma Sim Racing. A big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight as well, Michael, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. Also, none of this is possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Brian Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.